Well, I have been very clear from the beginning of when this took place. The issue, just to remind your listeners, is that there is very good evidence that there were attempts to have political interference with a very serious criminal trial. And I had to resign from cabinet because I was not willing to deny that took place. So I would have to say, fairly stunned when I was expelled from caucus on Tuesday without ever having had an opportunity to speak to caucus to share my perspective on what had happened. It says obviously if the clocks could be rolled back many months, that this attempted interference had never taken place, then we wouldn't be in this regrettable situation that we're in. In this case, the issue at the heart of this is the independence of our justice system. We cannot have a democracy without an independent justice system that is free from political interference. And I felt there was evidence that there had been some attempts of interference, and the expectations of cabinet ministers to deny that the interference took place and or to suggest that it didn't matter, that it wasn't important in some way, was not something that I could do in good conscience. But I believe so strongly in the importance of us as a country having a justice system that we can trust, to know that decisions are not going to be made in the courts based on whether the person or the company on trial is friends with or associated with a particular politician who will plead their case. That's the fundamental issue here. I think Canadians can be very thankful that the system did work. I believe it worked because the former Attorney General did not bend to the wishes of those who wanted her to interfere in the trial. The decision around this particular trial, the SNC-Lavalin case, it's been described by some as the largest corporate corruption trial in modern Canadian history. It's not an insignificant trial in any way. And there is a person called the Director of Public Prosecutions who is completely non-political, who has a large office of people who are trained in criminal prosecutions. She made the determination that this should go to trial. We can be thankful that we did not have political interference didn't occur, but it was because the former Attorney General was not willing to meddle. The story of the government has changed now to not necessarily denying the allegations, but to saying, well, it doesn't actually matter, is I think the general tone of the messaging at the moment. And I don't believe that either, because I believe it does matter that this attempted interference took place. And it does matter. And I think Canadians deserve to know that someone takes responsibility. But a cabinet minister has to be able to defend entirely and say in good conscience that they support the approach of the government. I couldn't do that because I felt that our approach was wrong. I chose the truth. I chose to act on principles that are so important to the future of our country. What I would say is I think it's a bit of a red herring to be talking about whether or not her justification is reasonable and not to focus on the content of the tape. What was said in that tape, what was being attempted in that tape was to interfere with the Attorney General, who is, in that case, she was not wearing a political hat. She was representing the independent justice system. And there were attempts to try to make her do something that she didn't believe was the right thing to do. That's a disturbing tape, especially falling on months of similar kinds of conversations. She will have explained that very well in her case, that she reached a point where she did not feel safe, where she had endured months of repeated efforts to get her to change her mind.
Before I let you go,
I hope Canadians will want to know the truth. I think that's what they are saying to me.